And hello everyone, and today we are again raising important topics in the world of rhythmic gymnastics. This time I will tell you about the conflict that occurred within the Federation of Dagestan and Sports Club. Judging by the stories, my jaw falls off from what is happening there, and how everyone reacts to it within the higher authorities, including the All-Russian Gymnastics Federation. Well, before starting the video, do not forget to subscribe to the channel so as not to miss new videos, and stay up to date with all the events from the world of gymnastics. Well, I also remind you that using the link in the description, you can support the development of the channel with your donations. And let's get started. In general, there is a whole broadcast about the situation that is happening in the Federation of Dagestan, where Venera Zaripova understood as thoroughly as possible and told you everything with evidence and documents. So if you want to know about this in as much details as possible, then I will leave the link to the broadcast below in the description. And here I will tell as briefly as possible all the information that I have. And of course, I'll tell you what I think about it. So stock up on tea and let's figure it out. Tamila Murtalizova has become the president of Rhythmic Gymnastics Federation of Dagestan in 2018. As I read in the comments, many people associate the problems of the federation precisely with her appearance in the power. First of all, it is that everything is solved there through connections and money. The situation after the conflict in Kazakhstan is a bit familiar, although everything seemed to be resolved there. After the conflict was brought out to a wide audience, and in Dagestan, so far, no one can influence the problem. So the Purity Club, which is located in the city of Makhachkala, is trying to achieve justice by any means. One of the problems with which it all started is the fees that the clubs of Dagestan must pay to be included in the federation. Until 2021, the cost of membership fees was 10,000 rubles. And since 2021, a letter has come to the Purity Club that the fee has been raised to 90,000 rubles for each club that wants to be included in the federation, and 2,000 from a gymnast who wants to be an eligible compete in regional competitions and perform ranks. This is taken into account that the situation in the country after the pandemic is not the best, and in Dagestan, the third wave is continuing, and not only in clubs, but also parents whose children study in schools have financial difficulties. After the letter came to the club, the director of the Purity Club, Lena, wrote a complaint to all higher authorities that the amount of membership fees was too high for the club, and also said that such fees in Russia were a maximum of 15,000 rubles. The Minister of Sports of Dagestan responded to the situation and organized a general meeting to which it invited representatives of the clubs, as well as the president of the federation, Tamila Murtalizova. At the meeting, it was decided to reduce the fee to 15,000 rubles. The letter was also sent to the All-Russian Federation of Rhythmic Gymnastics, where of course they also reacted to the problem. But the truth could not be solved, saying that they could not do anything and could not influence the president of the federation either. In fact, they must decide everything themselves. Cool, what to say? As you can see, the federation of our country does not really care about the development of sports in regions other than Moscow. Well, or at least where it doubtfully helps. Zarina said that everyone wants to develop gymnastics in Dagestan, and there are people who want to open new clubs, but simply cannot financially afford such costs. And in fact, the Dagestan Federation, with its contribution, simply kills all developments in the bad. In general, the Federation does not want to hear from anyone and does not react in any way, even to the instructions of the Ministry of Variety. Since after the meeting, the Purity Club received a letter according to which they must pay a fee of 50,000 rubles, although the Minister of Sports ordered to reduce the figure to 15. And contributions are not the only problem. Also, Tamil, the president of the Federation of Dagestan, is dark, with the composition of the national team of the Republic. According to Lena, the director of the Purity Club, gymnasts are selected for the national teams only from the CHVSM club. This club is headed by that very Tamila, and in fact, the gymnasts of that club are not even watched. Trainings and selections are held behind closed doors, and other coaches and gymnasts are not allowed there. When the director of the Purity Club tried to insist that her children at least should be watched, the president reacted only after written complaints and seemed to come to the Purity Club, but this did not really work out. They said about the children that they don't reach the level of the national team, although the coaches of the Purity Club club do not even know who is in the national team of the region and to what level they don't reach. And maybe they do. The president is simply not going to include children from other clubs, since in fact they don't train with them. In general, a real monopoly is in the face. Although I agree that the information about how good children train in clubs is a very subjective opinion. But in all regions, the national team is selected based on the results of competitions, in which everyone sees gymnasts and the best are the part of the team. Here everything is decided personally by one person, which as for me is clearly not fair and not sportive. Well, it's rather strange how the president of the federation answers questions in the format of why other clubs that pay money to the federation cannot watch children who represent the region in competitions, to which the president of the federation simply replies that shows nothing to anyone. In addition to the problems with getting into the national team, there are also violations. So the gymnast of 2010 was included in the team, which is in fact 2011. The girl trains naturally in the CHVSM club of the president of the federation, and at the CSFO competition, she performed under a different name. By the way, interesting stories began to surface about this topic, so we'll talk about this later. But the very fact that gymnasts will perform under false names in order to deceive the system and no one turns out to check it, and this is falsification of documents, which is a criminal article. And it seems that there are already enough problems. But that's not all. The president of the federation disqualified the children for changing the coach. So the gymnasts were disqualified from regional and domestic competitions for a whole year due to the fact that the girls left the very school of CHVSM and argued that the disqualification was that the gymnasts had violated the coaching ethics and the coaches were simply offended that they had left them. It is even funny to say, in general, there is no such practice in the world of gymnastics that someone is disqualified for changing a coach or a sports club. But here the coaches and the president convinced parents that this is a common situation, apparently this way trying to intimidate parents and children so that they do not leave the school. Well, with this approach, I'm not surprised that parents wanted to take their children out of such school. For CHVSM, this of course spoils the reputation that someone wanted to leave them, but in any case, invent their own rules and laws and convince people that such a practice exists in the world. Well, I just have no words for that situation. I think it's clear that this is all wild and I don't like the way that they do with children who just want to do gymnastics. Also, when leaving the club, gymnasts who were disqualified were forbidden to use their exercises, although their parents paid for the performances of the numbers. And again, I just don't understand what kind of people work in CHVSM, and I just don't believe that this is really happening. Everyone knows that if you paid for the performance, then the exercise is entirely yours, and you can do anything with it. Leave it like that, or even alter it, or change something. Paid means yours, not the coach who was paid and who invented it. The first thing is that after the disqualification, the children themselves began to worry that if they were to perform somewhere in the region and the coaches from the CHVSM were present at the tournament, they would be condemned in any case, and they could not even be asked about any national team's prizes. Well, in general, everything that is happening now in the Rhythmic Gymnastics Federation of Dagestan seems to be a dark forest. According to local coaches, the presidium includes people and relatives of Tamila Mortalizieva, president of the federation, and no one knows what kind of people they are. No one is familiar with them and no one chose them, although everyone must pay fees to be listed in the federation. At one of the meetings with the Minister of Sports, Tamila Mortalizieva was ordered to reduce the cost of membership fees for the club to be included in the federation, ordered to return disqualified children, and also not to take additional entry fees from children at regional competitions, for which the sports committee pays. Yes, they also collected money from children for competitions, which are paid by the sports committee. At the moment, the situation has not changed much. Zarina, the director of the Purity Club, plans to write an application to the procurator in order to influence what is happening in the federation. But will she be helped? There is a controversial issue. The only thing is that her efforts were no longer in vain, and the children who were disqualified were allowed to start, although they take the last places in the competitions. And in the VFHG, they say that they could not deprive the president and the federation of accreditation. And in fact, no one has any levers of pressure, but chaos is going on. Write in the comments what do you think about this. Write maybe any of the suggestions that you have on how to resolve the problem. Tell about the video in your social network. Perhaps if they talk about it and as many people as possible know about the problem, then the conflict will be resolved, or there will be people who can help in the difficult matter. Well, that's everything for today. I will definitely keep you informed of how things are developing in Dagestan. Well, I'm sincerely worried about the children who have faced this unfairness. But that's it for today. Remember that I love you all, and I'll see you soon in the next video. The video was translated and dubbed by Alexandra Sinica.